After Muammar divorced his first wife, he remarried in 1971 to Sofia Farkas, a woman of Hungarian descent who met Muammar when he was hospitalized in 1969. She bore with him 7 children, the first of whom was Saif Al-Islam. He was born in 1972, and despite being the son of the leader, he attended an ordinary school, like most Libyan children, and following the normal curriculum. He would go on to obtain a Bachelor of Science degree in Engineering Science from Al-Fashir University of Tripoli in the year 2008. He was awarded a PhD from LSE, the London School of Economics.
Before Libya's old regime was toppled, Saif Gaddafi was the country's second most powerful figure after his father. He controlled the Libyan Investment Authority, a government fund worth up to $100 billion.
In the early 2000s, he lived the playboy life in Europe, moving in similar circles to Peter Mandelson and then Prince Andrew. An exhibition of his paintings was mounted in London. His LSE thesis turned out to be written by aides. Prime Minister Tony Blair was bringing his father in from the cold, and Saif was seen as a more acceptable successor.
Next is the Gaddafi International Charity and Development Foundation, which doesn't even belong to Muammar Gaddafi, but to his son Saif Al-Islam. This NGO is very active in the human rights field.
Saif was a painter by heart and held no post in government or the military, but he was influential in the Libyan state. He led a billion-dollar charity that aided thousands of people, both Libyan and non-Libyan, both African and non-African. He was the face of the Gaddafi children and the second most recognizable person in Libya.
It was Saif who negotiated the release of Abdul Basit el-Megrahi, imprisoned in Scotland for the bombing of Pan Am 103 over Lockerbie in 1988.
He was seen as Gaddafi's preferred successor, a claim that Saif repeatedly rejected.
You're insistent that you do not agree that the time has come for your father to stand down. You don't think that somebody like yourself should be stepping forward to lead the country, a younger, new generation.
This is not, listen, I said this before and I'll say it again. We have no intention to be a ruling family.
He was referred to as a reformer prior to the Libyan conflict of 2011. Saif was a critic of the Libyan system and protested the lack of elections, advocating a proper constitution and democracy.
I said this many times before. For the last 10 years, we need democracy in Libya, with laws, constitution, local governance, election.
Saif wasn't a believer in the Jamahiriya. His mind was westernized when he went to get a PhD in England, when he could educate in England. He made multiple failed attempts on a referendum on the 1977 constitution. He was hailed by the West for the negotiations that he made during the time of the Jamahiriya and just before the conflict. For example, the dismantling of Libya's weapons of mass destruction and the releasing of all Libyan prisoners, both of which ended up detrimental to the Libyan and Jamahiriya state. Until August of 2011, Saif al-Islam remained in Tripoli, confident that they would be victorious. He remained in Tripoli until its fall, which is when he fled to Beni Walid alongside Mansour Dahao. He remained in Beni Walid throughout the conflict, and it was from there that he vowed to enact revenge for the murder of his brother and father.
Saif al-Islam, the son of Muammar Gaddafi, has publicly announced his intention to keep fighting for Libya despite the death of his father or the NATO destruction of the country. This claim was made on television on Syria's RA TV channel. We continue our resistance. I am in Libya. I am alive, free, and intend to go to the very end and exact revenge. I say, go to hell, you and NATO behind you. This is our country. We live in it. We die in it, and we are continuing the struggle. I receive a message from tribes in Beni Walid about the general consensus between them to respond to the threats of the Gang of Rats, the revolutionaries, and the NATO alliance.
After Beni Walid was captured, he fled once more, but with 3 less fingers due to NATO bombs. Saif was the last remaining stumbling block to the imperialists. He could not be allowed to flee Libya or lead a rebellion against the newly established Al-Qaeda headquarters. But Saif was a broken man. He heard and probably saw images of the butcher of his family, as well as those loyal to the Green Revolution. The war was lost in his mind, and so he sought a way out of Libya. Saif was once a courageous man who stood up against the West with the famous slogan, "We live here, we die here."
I'm an Erdogan citizen. This is my country. We live here, we die here. We live why? For what?
This is our country, this is our people, and we live here and we die here.
This is our country. We fight here in Libya. We die here in Libya.
We have Plan A, Plan B, Plan C. Plan A is to live and die in Libya. Plan B is to live and die in Libya. Plan C is to live and die in Libya.
But he's no longer that man. Saif hired a desert guy by the name of Yusuf al-Hotmani to get him to Niger, where he'd hopefully reunite with his brother Sadi, who fled there after the fall of Tripoli. Unfortunately, due to the large sum of money Saif paid to the desert guide, Hotmani suspected him of being Saif Al-Islam, as Saif used a false identity when he hired him, and so Hotmani betrayed him. Saif attempted to flee to Niger on November the 18th, but was ambushed by the rebels and captured. Shortly after his capture, reports were forwarded claiming that it was the British who were key in the capture of Saif. All the same, it was the betrayal of Saif's desert guide that led to his capture. Many questions arose from the capture of Saif, the most important of which is how he managed to survive it. Why wasn't Saif murdered upon his capture like his father and brother? Seeing as the name Gaddafi was equivalent to Satan, how then did he survive? Saif was accused of butchering protesters. He was accused of ordering the brutal siege of Misrata and Benghazi, seeing as he was claimed to have been a part of his father's inner circle. How then was he not beaten half to death like his father, or not shot in the back of the neck like his brother? Firstly, the rebels knew that Saif was not part of government and did not use force against civilians.
Come on, they accuse me of killing people. Everybody knows, even the robbers themselves, they're not accusing me of using force or killing, because I'm not in the army, I'm not in the government. So for me to be responsible for killing people, it was a big joke.
Secondly, there were no orders to kill him, as was in the case of Mutassim, as the West needed somebody to take the blame and take the fall for the atrocities that they brought to Libya. Saif was meant to be a sacrificial lamb, the scapegoat, the patsy. Saif was supposed to take upon himself the sin of his father and die so as to impute righteousness to NATO through his blood. But it didn't happen. The Libyans insisted on trying him at home and not at The Hague, as the imperialists had initially planned. There was some interesting news brought forth by Pepe Escobar, news that might interest the advocates of the Jamahiriya state.
It was completely wrong, like Libya. In fact, they broke Libya. What is Libya nowadays? A failed state run by warring militias. And I've been hearing some rumors from people in Libya that there's even a possibility, which is, look how crazy this thing is. The tribes that were supporting Gaddafi, they're still there. And they're trying to broker a deal to have Saif al-Islam back as one of the pillars of the new Libya. Can you believe this shit?
Ajmi al-Atri is famous for capturing Saif al-Islam, the son and chosen heir of Colonel Gaddafi. This footage shows a meeting between the two men in 2011. Ajmi held on to his prisoner for 5 years. Then, astonishingly, he set him free.
Muammar Gaddafi's son, Saif Al-Islam, has been released from custody. That's according to his lawyer Karim Khan, who is representing him before the International Criminal Court. Karim Khan claims that Saif was freed in April after Libyan authorities quashed a death sentence against him. He is now at an undisclosed location in Libya.
After more than 5 years in custody in the western Libyan city of Zintan, Saif al-Islam al-Gaddafi, the son of Libya's former leader, is free. The Abu Bakr al-Siddiq brigade, which had been holding him since it arrested him in November 2011, has announced that Saif has left Zintan. The brigade says his release is a response to an amnesty decree issued by the parliament based in the eastern city of Tobruk. That decree sets free political and criminal prisoners, including Gaddafi-era officials.
This law includes all politicians and the years after the overthrow of the regime of Gaddafi, and of course this law does not exempt criminal cases.
In terms of humanity, it is acceptable, and politically, he does not present a threat. He has no political ambitions, even though he's Gaddafi's son. His release is proof of the integrity of the Libyan judiciary system. God willing, this will continue, as it's what we want, for the country to be free and fair.
one man who could now arguably reunite Libya and defeat ISIS-Daesh on the Mediterranean coast. ISIS that was recreated there by President Obama and Britain's Tory government.
You want me to tell you where he can be found? Well, that's another question. According to Libyan law, Saif is free, and he is somewhere on Libyan territory.
Hashmi Al-Atri has even gone as far as allying himself to the Gaddafi heir.
You know what? I think that 2/3 of the Libyan people favor the former regime, and the other third is nostalgic for the way we lived before. Saif al-Islam can have a leading role in reuniting the Libyan people. He alone is capable of reuniting the supporters of the former regime and those who were part of the revolution. Saif can unite the Libyan people.
Saif Gaddafi, the son of former Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi, will run for president if elections manage to go ahead this year. His father was driven from power and killed in 2011. Now, while holding no official position, Saif was one of the most recognized persons in the country. He was even described as the de facto prime minister during his father's rule. Saif was then held captive for 6 years before being released last year amid political unrest. And we heard exclusively from Saif's lawyer on the presidential bid.
Saif al-Islam has lots of supporters. They are ordinary people. There are even those who are against Muammar Gaddafi back in 2011, and now they support the views of his son. The situation we have in Libya now is the result of the destruction of all the state institutions, not only the toppling of the regime. 40 countries stood against Libya back then. Our country was bombarded and shelled. All the military and civilian infrastructure was destroyed. Many civilians were killed, and now Saif al-Islam has put forward a comprehensive overview of the situation in Libya.
Saif was supposed to be hung like Saddam Hussein, but then decided to appeal to the cancer they placed in Libya, a cancer whose purpose was to kill Gaddafi and destabilize the entire northern Africa. And so ends the theory of how Saif survived a war that toppled his father, but set the foundation of his ascension to power. He had announced his intention to run for president.
Will he or won't he? Reports that the son of the late Libyan leader Saif al-Islam may run for president has set markets abuzz in Libya. The second son of Gaddafi is wanted for alleged war crimes and was freed after 6 years in jail earlier this June. Ever since, there have been few reports about the man himself, and speculations have been mounting about his next possible move.
The son of former Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi is planning a political comeback. According to a family spokesperson, Saif Al-Islam Gaddafi will run for president in the country's election next year.
Saif Gaddafi, the son of former Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi, will run for president if elections manage to go ahead this year.
And is Saif al-Gaddafi going to run in December's elections as he promised from Tunisia back in 2018?
Well, Saif al-Gaddafi has a very clear and patriotic, if I may say, project. He is supported by most of the Libyan tribes. That is why the West is terrified for the presence of Gaddafi, the recent developments. We all heard what the Assistant Secretary of State of the US said, that they would refuse to deal with any Libya headed by Saif al-Islam, as if the destiny and future of Libya should be decided by Washington instead of the very Libyan people in the country.
And even registered as a presidential candidate for the November 2021 Libyan elections. Those elections were postponed indefinitely due to political instability.
2021, Saif al-Islam announced he would run for president, but the Elections Committee disqualified him, and the polls aiming to unify the country under a UN agreement were indefinitely postponed due to disputes over the constitutional framework and candidate eligibility. Libya remains effectively divided.
Some 5 years down the road, in early February 2026, Saif, the oldest surviving son and apparent heir of the late Muammar Gaddafi, was gunned down by 4 unknown assailants who killed him on the spot. Saif's sister told Libyan TV he was killed near the country's border with Algeria in Zitan, northwestern Libya.
Now, Saif al-Islam Gaddafi, son of the former Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi, has been killed.
According to Uthman Abdullah, he's a political advisor for Saif Al-Islam Gaddafi, he said that 4 armed men entered the residence of Saif Al-Islam Gaddafi in the city of Zintan. They assassinated him.
Fast forward to yesterday, when he was assassinated, allegedly by 4 gunmen in the town of Zintan. Today, supporters came to where his body lies. Saif al-Gaddafi survived the revolution that overthrew his father and tried to revive the family's power. The identity of the assassins remains unknown, but Libya's 2 main opposing factions are on the brink of doing a deal and might not have welcomed a 3rd option interfering. Setting their celebratory fireworks to music, last night fighters in Misrata showed their joy at Saif al-Gaddafi's demise. The Gaddafi era ended in 2011. Saif's dream of reviving it is now also dead.
Thereby marking the end of a man wanted for war crimes by the ICC, who had spent 6 years in prison, held by militia groups, but was then released, having presidential aspirations, only to be murdered by his own people, a fate similar to that of his father. Saif finally met his end, and thereby fulfilled his wish to live and die in Libya.
Thousands of people descended on the small town of Bani Walid on Friday to attend the funeral of a son of former Libyan dictator, the late Muammar Gaddafi. Saif al-Islam, once seen by some as his father's heir apparent, was shot dead by unidentified gunmen at his home in the city of Zintan on Tuesday. Bani Walid, together with Sirte, were the 2 final strongholds loyal to Muammar Gaddafi during the 2011 Arab Spring uprising. The large turnout, including people from other parts of the country at the tightly secured event, underscored the political divisions that have split Libya since then. We've come here today to accompany our beloved, the son of our leader, the one in whom we saw hope, the future, life, dignity, pride and greatness, to accompany him to his grave. We're neither broken nor frightened nor subjugated. This assassination, if it has any effect, will only strengthen our determination to liberate Libya. They wanted to get him out of the electoral race so that they could win. They succeeded in excluding him from the political scene by assassinating him. He had a good chance and was a leader for us.